So here we are back at the engine assembly. There's been a bit of a development since the previous episode. The engines have been multiplying. Always seems to be the same when you get into a thing like this and a bit of an interesting project. You start looking around on eBay and lo and behold, that bargain that you cannot resist crops up. And here it is, another little Seagull motor, slightly smaller in capacity this one. Not sure exactly on the power output, but the thing that really intrigued me was the quality of the tank. Minimal dents in this one, so I'm going to cheat slightly, and what I'm going to do is take the tank off of this one and use it on the one that I'm rebuilding. I'm really having a bit of a dilemma whether to just clean it up and put it on, keep it original. I think I might do, just give it a bit of a polish up so it is an original condition one, but we'll see. I'll have a play with that later. I haven't quite got to the tank yet, but yeah, really good nick. So back to what I'm doing with this one. I've had a bit of a development off screen, realised that we needed to put this rod in here which controls the clutch or disengages the drive to the prop anyway. So if you pull that up, there will eventually be a little lever put back on there, so that pulls that up and then it ramps, goes up on the ramp. It's difficult to do with pulling it with your fingers, and it works against the spring. Oh, I can't quite do it, but you get the idea of it. I'll demonstrate it when I get the lever back on there. So yes, needed to put that in first before I do all this exhaust leg bit, and then we put the water pipe back in there. That's the water feed up into the block, and then obviously this tube that directs the exhaust gases goes on after, and same a little zip tie there just to stop this from slipping down. So here we have the block. It's the engine block. What I've done is I've rotated the shaft inside just so that's at a right angle. Yeah, it's still like that. And then I've lined this up so that's at a right angle to these two bolts. So I'm hoping now this should just drop on quite nicely. And there we go. So I've got a couple of nuts to go on here, and this needs to be bolted up underneath so it feeds the water into the engine block. Just make sure we don't get that cross-threaded. That would be a minor disaster. There we go, it's going on nice and straight now. And we're still down in the hole there. Trusty car boot spanner. A little bit snug on this nut. Slightly tighten that. And I've got two nuts, cut the spring washers. And I can do that up underneath there. Just realised another schoolboy error. I'll show you what that is now. There is a clamp. This piece. This needs to go on the outside of that. So I'll undo this again. That'll teach me. I'm hoping Right. thread that. The cable go out of the way. And that. And clamp that up on this when I'm finished with it. Okay. So here we go. Just have a quick close-up look. So there's our two bolts. One under there, one under there. This is our water feed in. Just nip that up, not too much because you'll crush the life out of the olive, but just enough to seal it. We can then cut this off, that's not needed. And as you'll see, there's a dimple there and a dimple there, so when I've cut the cable tie off, I'll slide that on, that'll help locate it. Put the clamp on, and that'll clamp and create a gas tight seal away in there. Okay, let's nip it up. Okay, so here we are with the exhaust tube mounted. Two holes go at the front, I believe. And what I've done here is a very tight fit actually. Took quite a bit of getting it up into that position. And I put a bit of tape on the paint and I give it some light tapping just in various places all the way around on that bit of a shoulder there, just to get that seated finally in its position. So now we can put the clamp on and get things tightened up. Next to go on is our gear selector, clutch, lever, whatever we call it. That just goes onto this little piece here. So I'm going to put that around there. Already got a bit of the original lube on it, something I didn't clean up that thoroughly. And then we've got a washer on there and a large castled nut. I'm going to clean that up a bit, I think. And there we have it, one cleaned up nut. Can't stand nicely cleaned up painted stuff and rusty nuts going onto it, so wherever we can we'll just give it a bit of a touch up with a wire brush. So, guessing that goes on there like that. Seems to be lining up okay. So we'll just nip this up against the spring now. As you can see, they go together very simply. Once you've got all the individual component parts pre-assembled, it then goes together quite well. So we'll get a split washer in there. Nice mechanical clunk. And there you go, there's the movement. Lower down. Dead simple. Next we have the tiller arm. So I've sprayed that up. Took the grip off and cleaned that up in the sink with a bit of fairy liquid and a scrubbing brush. Sprayed the arm, put the grip back on. Just clean this off with a bit of solvent. Looks pretty good. The chrome's not bad on that at all. It's going a little bit on there, but it's not bad. So let's just pop this back together. I think I'm going to pop it up there, which makes perfect sense then. Funnily enough, I was guided by the one on the other engine, which shows it right down the other end. But it makes more sense for it to be near the handle. As always, typical bloke, let's not look at the manual. Let's just go with the flow. Clamped up quite nice on there. You can always adjust it when it's on the engine. And I've got the cable, so so I can get the right length. But hopefully I've got that in the right place. It's lined up with a hole here so the guide cable can be guided up. That feels pretty comfortable to use. A little bit of grit in there obviously still, probably a bit of sand from the beach. So I've been through my box of nuts and bolts and this is what I've got left. It looks like it goes with the arm, so spring, washer, another lock nut, all cleaned up, ready to go. Let's pop them on. There we go. I'm guessing things go in this general direction because that's where you'll be sat on the boat. Washer on first and get it to stay. Sorry, spring on first, followed by the washer, and then the castle nut. And that does up something like this. Feel the resistance growing already. I'll put a bit of grease on this. Run a bit of oil down it probably when we're finished. And then we have the tiller on. So that'll sit all the way up like that. We'll come down. Now this will definitely need a split washer because you can see that nut where it's working loose. So I'll pop one on there when I get some. So just put that down out the way. Flywheel tank next, and then the carburetor on the other side. I think we'll probably do the carb next. Something else I've just found in my box a bit is this slightly banana shaped nut and bolt which goes onto there. So I'm just going to pop that on next. I'm not going to tighten it out because I'm not sure which way I want this bracket to face yet. So I'll leave that untightened till I can decide where I want it to go. So there it is, loosely assembled, and I'll leave it like that until I can decide where I want this bracket to face. I'll probably have a look at a few engines on the internet, or the original one, this one when I took it apart, and see which way it went. Brilliant. In the next video we're going to be looking at putting this carburetor back together and putting that new jet in the carb to make it 25:1, which you can see I've taken the old one out already. And we're going to be using our improvised radiator spanner to actually pop that in. Clean it all up a little bit more carb cleaner, and a quick blowout with the airline. See you next time.